Hi, welcome back to the Scent Advocate. It's Friday night after a long week. I'm decompressed from work and thought what a great time to talk about fragrance with all of you. And one in particular I wanted to talk about is what I think is the latest release from one of my favorite perfume houses. And then I got to thinking more and realized, wow, wouldn't it be great to talk about the other fragrances I have in my collection from that same house? Now, my most recent addition to my collection is a blind buy from that house. So I was so excited. I couldn't wait for a sample. I'm never an advocate of blind buying. But I thought for this house and this type of fragrance, the DNA that's associated with the house, I was probably safe. And so the fragrance I'm talking about is Voluptuous Oud by Francesca Bianchi. And this is an extrait de parfum. I believe it is 30 ml, and I saw it and I had to go for it. I think if there had been a sample available that I could find or a decant, I would have gone for it, but I couldn't find any. I waited a few days. I just couldn't wait anymore. And as I'll get to in a little bit, I have quite a few fragrances from this house. I have sampled, I think, all of them and purchased most. So, given my knowledge of the house itself, the, as I mentioned, DNA of Francesca Bianchi fragrances, I thought if I was ever going to do a blind buy, this would probably be a safe one. And I was right. Oud. What can we say about oud? It can be really polarizing. Not everyone loves it. It goes from, I've smelled very mild expressions of it that, come across as more of a mainstream woody fragrance, clear through to animal fecal funk. Voluptuous Oud is neither. It is very much its own thing. And I would describe this fragrance as oud, leather, and dark fruit. The expression of oud in this fragrance, to me, is more mainstream in that it's not the animalic type. Now, I've smelled oud burned as a type of incense, and that did not smell funky to me. It smelled beautiful. It was smoky. It was cozy. It was delightful, absolutely wonderful, and that's what I came to expect from oud. But in my fragrance journey, I've come to see that there's a very polarizing way that oud can be expressed. I think a lot of times that has more to do with the other notes and other ingredients in a fragrance rather than the oud itself. I'm not sure, I'm not a perfumer, but given the vast disparities among different expressions of oud, I have to think it has something to do with the other ingredients. And given that I've smelled oud in its pure burned form, I just think there's more to it than what we're getting in an individual bottle of perfume. Okay, so the notes in this fragrance are citrus at the top, dark fruit, oud, leather, caramel, vetiver, tola balsam. All of that makes perfect sense. There's nothing in this that has got me saying no, that can't be the case. It is a deep, cozy, dark, just very comforting expression of oud. I think it leans a little bit masculine, but I find it definitely unisex. I think it's probably better for cooler evenings and colder months generally. I would not be inclined to wear this in very hot weather, but that would be the case with any oud fragrance. So no difference here. I do think it is unique. I think the combination of dark fruit, leather, and oud really manifest in a way that I haven't experienced before. That said, this fragrance I think will appeal to more people than your average oud fragrance in the niche or indie categories. Now, this does not smell like any Byredo oud fragrance, but if you have smelled any of the Byredo ouds, this is along those lines in terms of strength and accord. Okay, it is more of a generally accepted expression of oud than, like I was saying earlier, that kind of funky, dark, fecal, animalic expression that you sometimes get in the niche or indie world. So among the ouds, I think this is a pretty safe buy. For me, it was an excellent gamble on a blind buy. Like all Francesca Bianchi fragrances, I find this something that I enjoy wearing to bed, and it relaxes me. It gives me a sense of peace, and it kind of lulls me to sleep. I mean, what you might imagine a lavender to do in the classical sense of its use as a sleep stimulant or evocateur of sleep. That's what these Francesca Bianchi fragrances do for me for the most part, and this is no different. So let me know what you think of Voluptuous Oud by Francesca Bianchi. Just as Voluptuous Oud's name implies a fragrance, although I wouldn't call it linear, it's just the name I'm referring to, so too is the linear name of Byzantine Amber by Francesca Bianchi. This is also an extract and 30 ml. This fragrance I've had in my collection for a little bit longer. I love ambers. I love the warm, heavy fragrances designed more for cooler temperatures. I tested this, fell in love with it right away, and got a full bottle. This fragrance is more of a dark, resinous, it's an amber for sure, but it's got a muted sweetness. So the darkness of the fragrance, the amber, the expression of it, I think can sometimes come across as a little bit bitter in other fragrances. But in this one, Francesca Bianchi really does an excellent job of using other notes to mute any potential bitterness and not bring about a candy sweetness. Because I think if it did, I'm not sure I would like it at all. I think it would be a little bit on the sickly sweet side. The notes in this fragrance are bergamot, cinnamon, geranium, benzoin, labdanum, frankincense, leather, styrax, and ambergris. I think the ambergris is very, very subtle here. Seeing that it's there, I can detect it, but it is, beautifully blended. The sweetness, I think, comes from the benzoin and the cinnamon. And I think those two, not being overly sweet, but adding a levity to the what can be sharpness of bergamot and leather and certainly ambergris, it just brings it to a very peaceful overall accord and a lovely expression of amber. I love the mood this puts me in. This is another one that I will wear to sleep. it just lulls me into a state of peace. Check out Byzantine Amber by Francesca Bianchi. Next in the lineup is Unspoken Musk. This is also, I believe, an extrait. Let me see. Yes, it is. It is 30 mils. This expression of musk, I'd never smelled anything quite like it. And that's what just immediately had me falling in love. This has a very tolerable, slightly animalic accord. The notes in this fragrance are bergamot, immortelle, magnolia, iris butter, musk, castoreum, civet, patchouli, sandalwood, cypriol, tonka bean, and vanilla. The civet and castoreum are there. They are very, very subtle in the background, but they are undeniable. And I think what they do is bring out the reality of the musk. You know, musk has been around for a long time as a popular fragrance note. And I remember when I was young, there were all sorts of white musks and, you know, just really mainstream expressions of it. And they were beautiful. I mean, who didn't love, you know, the Jovans of the world? They were great. And I think they still are. They're just incredibly nostalgic, very wearable, very likable. They came in lots of different varieties and flankers. They were great. This is not that. This is definitely a more what I would call artistic expression, and one that may not be for everyone. The civet and castoreum here are slightly reminiscent in my mind of Salome. Not identical at all. This is in no way a dupe, but that note, the way it is expressed, is maybe a tenth of what I got when I sampled Salome, but it's a similar DNA to that animalic expression. This expresses musk as very raw, sexy, and uninhibited. I think it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. The thing about this fragrance, however, is try it on your skin and not just on the test strip. Francesca Bianchi fragrances, in my opinion, react significantly to one's body chemistry. And although I love them on a test strip, on my skin, they just bloom, and it's an exquisite experience. This is probably a fragrance that leans masculine, and again, like the others we've talked about thus far, it is definitely one that I wouldn't be inclined to wear in the warmer months. I don't know how it would be if you were to sweat wearing it. Might be great. I'm not sure. I think it depends on your body chemistry. It's got a sharpness, I think, because of the civet and castoreum, but not so sharp that I can't sleep in it. You know, the relaxation that I get from fragrances in this house is definitely there. I think the vanilla and tonka bean really settle down and counterbalance that civet and castoreum. Absolutely beautiful Unspoken Musk. Next is Etruscan Water. This one has quite a dent. I definitely overspray this one. I love to wear it at night before I go to sleep. This is very strong. Let me just add that they are all very strong. They're extraits, okay? I mean, extrait. just going to say it straight. My French is terrible. If you work in an environment where that's a problem, or you're around people who maybe have sensitivity to fragrance, you're going to want to take it easy on all these because they are beasts. So Etruscan Water, I tested it with my daughter, and right away my preteen daughter, she just insisted this was something I had to buy. This is a cozy, this strikes me as a chic. It's a dark, warm, earthy, spicy, resinous, enveloping fragrance. It is a little bit softer than the others we've talked about from this house, but oh, it's lovely. The notes are bergamot, green tangerine, grapefruit, petitgrain, basil, carvey, immortelle, jasmine, iris root, musk, ambergris, labdanum, vetiver, and oak moss. So the oak moss, I think, and the bergamot at the top really set this apart as a sheep. And there is a dark green undertone to this, I think, contributing to that earthy quality. Unmistakable oak moss, just giving it a complexity that blows your mind. I mean, this is not a fragrance, this is art. I could live in this fragrance. This woman is a genius. Truly incredible stuff. I think the iris root really sets it apart. It also has, I think, a lot of strong citrus at the top, but I think the basil, the iris root, and maybe the jasmine mute the sharpness of the citrus. Absolutely stunning. And again, just blooms when you put it on your skin. I think the warmth of the body heat just makes it incredible. To me, this leans feminine. This is, it has an air of feminine intimacy to it. It's sexy stuff. Absolutely. Like, whoa. Just, it is essential female, if you can imagine what I mean. Just gorgeous. I think anyone could wear it. I believe this is something that is more for the evening, cooler months, but I would wear this in an intimate setting in the warm months if I were inclined. Gorgeous Etruscan Water. Next is Tyger Tyger. Also an extrait de parfum, 30 ml. I got a sample of this and it gave me a grape cola vibe. Now, I'm not someone who indulges in soft drinks at all, and I never really cared for grape soda. But that's what first came to mind with this. And of course, I am talking about a very avant-garde, artistic grape soda. Right? I mean, it's late. Yeah, so an unsweet, artistic grape soda. And after smelling it again and again and again, I get less of that and more of the avant-garde and artistic aspect of it. There definitely is a dark fruit here, but it's a brighter one than what I got from Voluptuous Oud. The notes in this fragrance are narcotic flowers, so I'm guessing that's a poppy, honey peach jam, patchouli, sandalwood, oak moss, oud, leather, and heliotropin. Now, the oak moss is more muted in this fragrance than it is in Etruscan Water. It's got a boozy quality to it. A Jack Daniels meets a Chambord a little bit, and I think that's got to be the peach jam and honey together, married to the leather oud and patchouli. Patchouli can sometimes come across as chocolatey, and there's definitely a chocolatey note in here. But the oak moss, you get that this is a sheep, but it is muted as to the oak moss, not nearly as earthy as it is expressed in Etruscan Water. So this leans very feminine to me. This is a slightly brighter sheep. It feels wonderfully sparkly, maybe something you'd want to wear during the holiday season. I definitely put this on before I go to sleep. So aside from the brightness among fragrances from this house that I get from Tyger Tyger, I still find it incredibly relaxing. There is a sweetness that, as always with this house, is muted, but lifts the fragrance to a brighter accord over the other fragrances we've talked about so far. Absolutely stunning. Tyger Tyger. The next fragrance is Lost in Heaven. Now this one goes in the direction of Unspoken Musk and Etruscan Water, only it takes it to a more carnal level. This has some cumin in it, and that to me translates just straight up sex. It has other wonderful notes that offset it a bit and give it something of a veil, a subtlety, but not a ton of subtlety. So we've got grapefruit, green tangerine, orange flower, absolute, jasmine, ylang ylang, mimosa, magnolia, cumin, cinnamon, coriander, ambergris, musk, castoreum, beeswax, iris, butter, cyst absolute, apopanax, heliotrope, vetiver, sandalwood, patchouli, and tonka bean. Wow, so this presents to me as a sheep, but a slightly, animalic isn't the right word. It's a carnal, sexy sheep, minus the oak moss. I mean, this is a bold woman wearing this. Could a man wear it? Sure. It could be a masculine fragrance as well, but I think this leans feminine in a very intimate way. That is not to say that it is close to the skin. This projects. It's a beast. Be careful how you wield this sword, okay? It is like Salome in that you just can't stop smelling it. Now, I don't own Salome. It's too much cumin for me. I don't always like the way cumin comes across in a fragrance or how it smells on my skin, but this stuff is great. I absolutely love it. And the cumin you get from the test strip is not how it comes across on my skin. On my skin, it is much more subtle, but still really sexy. It's a little more powdery. It's that grapefruit gives it a brightness that on the test strip for some reason it just doesn't come out as much. It's stunning, but it's audacious. Lost in Heaven. Next, speaking of sex, is Sex and the Sea. This one, believe it or not, I think is far less sexy in terms of its carnal notes than the previous several we've discussed. This to me is more fruity and bright, and offset by a powdery note. So the notes for this are mimosa, pineapple, coconut, immortelle, rose, iris, sandalwood, myrrh, labdanum, benzoin, ambergris, civet, and vanilla. The civet in this, I really can, I can't smell it. I want to say I can barely smell it. I just can't. I guess that's a more fair characterization. This is a lot of iris. It's got that rose note for sure, but it's all really beautifully blended with the coconut and the pineapple, but it doesn't smell like a tropical fruit salad or anything like that. It's just a bright, beautiful, kind of upbeat, happy, as opposed to dark. I mean, you think because the juice is dark and it's Francesca Bianchi, you know, and it's called Sex in the Sea, it's going to be something, you know, that is more reminiscent of the other kind of sex-centric fragrances we talked about tonight. But for me, no. And the sea is there. There's something going on that is reminiscent of the sea. And of course, I have to attribute that to the ambergris and the tropical fruits. They make me think of a beachy type environment. But that having been said, there is nothing suntan lotion about this at all. I think this is a very feminine leaning fragrance. I think it certainly can be worn in the cooler months, but I would be inclined to wear this in the spring and definitely in summer evenings. Wow, it's very pretty, light, happy. If it had a color, it would be a beautiful sunny yellow. Not to say that it's a solar fragrance. It's not. Sex in the Sea. Speaking of the sea, next there is Mariner's Rhyme. This fragrance I was attracted to because I definitely get in the mood for fragrances that make me think of the ocean, something salty. I'm not into blue aquatics so much, but I really do love oceanic fragrances. And of course, it's a Francesca Bianchi, so I had to try it. I tried it. I loved it. I got a full bottle. This is an herbal, oceanic, salty, musky, beautiful. Oh, it's just lovely. And I put off buying this because at the time I bought it, I had really found some beautiful oceanic salty fragrances, and I thought, let me not, because I don't want to have too many of one genre, but this really is singular. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. This is a true unisex fragrance. The notes for this are bergamot, elemi, grapefruit, lavender, iris, ozonic notes, orange blossom, oak moss, frankincense, patchouli, and amber. So it's got the oak moss. It's got the iconic lineup of a sheep. So I had to have it. But it is a beautiful, summery, but you could definitely wear this any time of year. If you were coastal, it's got a coziness to it, so I could see wearing it like in a Nantucket or, Maine, in a wharf type setting. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely lovely. Mariner's Rhyme. Please give me a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.